Hello everyone, hope all of you are doing good. By this time, I know most of you have seen the question papers of mains of this year. So today we are going to discuss the international relations from paper 2. And first let us quickly discuss about the trend. If you see the trend, it is similar to what we have been getting in the last few years. There are 4 questions. 15 marks के 2 है, 10 marks के 2 है. So overall it is 50 marks and questions are around current also, as usually that we are getting. Current के around questions है and some of the questions where you have some basic and current, it is interlinked there. So the trend that we have been observing for the past 7-8 years, it is being continued. So let us quickly discuss the questions also. So and another thing is the questions are very much within the syllabus that has been given by UPSC. There is nothing like out of syllabus or out of blue they have asked anything. It is very much in sync with the syllabus. Now let us see the questions. First question is India-Africa Digital Partnership is achieving mutual respect, co-development and long-term institutional partnerships. Elaborate. It's a 150 words, 10 marks. So it is about India and Africa. So when you, it is India, Africa. Now before we discuss this question, India and Africa related questions, if you look into your PYQs, you will see that in the last around 10 years, in a gap of like or in a stretch of 10 years, they have asked India, Africa thrice. And the students who have been the students of NEXT IAS, many times we have discussed in the classes also that Africa, they are going to ask you again and again, time and again, Africa would be asked because Africa is very much in focus of our foreign policy. As we all know that Africa is the future, there is a lot of market, there are a lot of resources, there are so many other factors that we have discussed. So Africa के ऊपर जो है ये तीसरी बार क्वेश्चन पूछा गया है 10 सालों में. First they had another thing that has continued with respect to India Africa related questions कि they have not asked any question with respect to any one country of Africa. As we all know that African Union, we have 54 countries. So it's not about one-on-one, rather it is about a cumulative African Union or African countries per se. So जैसे उन्होंने पहले एक बार सबसे पहले क्वेश्चन पूछा था, discuss the pros and cons of relationship with Africa. Then they asked the question 3-4 साल पहले, they have asked the question that if the present is Asia, future is Africa. In light of this, discuss the recent initiatives of India in Africa. ठीक है, तो वो initiatives के ऊपर था. और इस बार भी जो question है 2025 का question is also about initiative and the initiative here is basically digital, है ना. और ये जो है, ये जो question की line है ना, this is directly that the India-Africa digital partnership is achieving mutual respect, co-development and long-term institutional partnership. If you are reading the Hindu newspaper, you will see that this question they have directly asked from one of the articles. ये जो line of the question है, ये directly from one of the articles 26th of May 2025 ये article आया था और उसमें ये direct line थी, वहीं से उन्होंने question पूछा है. So now let us discuss what has to be written here. This is a you can say एग्जाम्पल और डेटा और जो आपका जो है ना, जो इनिशिएटिव्स है, हेवी क्वेश्चन है ना. इनिशिएटिव्स जो है आपके जो फैक्ट्स, इट इज फैक्ट हेवी क्वेश्चन. नॉट मच ऑफ योर एनालिसिस इज रिक्वायर्ड हियर, बट यस लिटिल बिट एनालिसिस कि क्यों हमारा जो है म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट है, को डेवलपमेंट है ना, कैसे है, उसको सब्सटैंशिएट करने के लिए यू विल बी राइटिंग द इनिशिएटिव्स. सो इंडिया अफ्रीका डिजिटल पार्टनरशिप इज अचीविंग म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट, को डेवलपमेंट एंड लॉन्ग टर्म इंस्टीट्यूशनल पार्टनरशिप. नाउ इफ यू लुक एट इंडिया एंड अफ्रीका रिलेशनशिप, as we have discussed in the classes also कि इंडिया और अफ्रीका रिलेशनशिप है ना, हमारा जो रिलेशनशिप है it is quite mutually respected and it is on equal footing. Because if you look at India and Africa, है ना, हमारे जो पहले प्रधानमंत्री थे पंडित नेहरू has said that we are sister continents, है ना. Because if you look at India and Africa, if you go back into the history, we have lot of similarity. We have the common colonial past, then after our independence, what we have seen is Cold War. So during Cold War period also, most of us were facing the same challenge of whether to join the military blocks or not. So most of us have joined NAM also, and even in present times, post Cold War also, in the present times we are facing similar challenges, be it your climate change, be it your terrorism, be it your with respect to tariffs, be it with respect to your supply chains, so we are having similar challenges. So that is why we understand each other. We understand each other, we respect each other. So that is why this relationship is mainly focusing on, it is based on म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट, है ना. अब ये कैसे है म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट पे, है ना, उसके एग्जाम्पल्स क्या हैं, कैसे हम जो है को डेवलपमेंट कर रहे हैं, और कैसे हम जो है लॉन्ग टर्म इंस्टीट्यूशनल पार्टनरशिप कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, तो इसमें अगर आप देखो, इट इज़ बेस्ड ऑन म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट, है ना. वी डू नॉट हैव any what you can say lender or donor recipient relationship. We do not have buyer seller relationship. It is rather on equal footing, है ना. इंडिया जैसे एग्जाम्पल क्या है, जैसे इंडिया का आप देखोगे, इंडिया इज अलाइनिंग इट्स डिजिटल कोऑपरेशन एफर्ट्स विद अफ्रीकन यूनियन, है ना. उनका जो डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन है, स्ट्रैटेजी 2020-2030, है ना, इन द एरियाज लाइक यूनिवर्सल ब्रॉडबैंड है, आपका ई कॉमर्स है, साइबर सिक्योरिटी है. सो वी आर अलाइनिंग विद देम, है ना. हाँ, कई बार क्लास में बात की है कि इट इज दैट अफ्रीका, इंडियाज अप्रोच टू अफ्रीका, it is Africa led, Africa controlled, and Africa dominated development process. We are not like China or other major powers who are trying to dominate Africa. We are doing lot of development in Africa on equal footing, है. So जैसे यहाँ पे भी अभी एग्जाम्पल लिया हमने कि जो ब्रॉडबैंड है आपका, या ई कॉमर्स है, साइबर सिक्योरिटी है, हम इक्वल फूटिंग में वहाँ काम कर रहे हैं. इवन अफ्रीका के जो सोशो कल्चरल इकोनॉमिक circumstances है, keeping in mind the socio-cultural economic context of Africa, India is helping Africa to develop its Aadhaar. It is helping Africa to develop its database, UPI, DigiLocker kind of schemes like we have it in India. Similarly, when you talk about co-development, है ना, जब साथ डेवलपमेंट की बात करते, सो इवन इन द एरियाज वेयर वी कैन से कि वी आर डूइंग को डेवलपमेंट, सो व्हाट वी आर डूइंग इज लाइक इफ यू लुक एट इंडिया एंड अफ्रीका, वी हैव लॉट ऑफ इंडिया अफ्रीका हैकाथॉन्स. बहुत सारे हैकाथॉन्स हम ऑर्गेनाइज करते हैं, वेयर यंग इनोवेटर्स फ्रॉम बोथ द साइड दे सिट टुगेदर एंड दे कोलैबोरेट इन एरियाज लाइक आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, हेल्थ केयर हो गया आपका, एग्रीकल्चर हो गया, है ना. तो वी आर इनटू को डेवलपमेंट देयर. And under ITEC also, ITEC, Indian Technological and Economic Cooperation, under ITEC also, India is training, India is helping in lot of skill development in areas of healthcare, lot of skill development in the areas of IT skills, in the area of digital governance. So India is into co-development, है ना. आपका जो है हैकाथॉन्स वगैरह, हम वी बोथ साइड्स इनोवेटर्स आर कमिंग टुगेदर, सिटिंग टुगेदर, एंड दे आर फाइंडिंग अ common solution for the issue. So that is what is co-development. And then long-term institutional partnership. So when you look at the long-term institutional partnership, we have lot of collaborations here, and India is also running lot of programs in Africa, especially in the area of education, be it your primary education, be it your higher education, or in the area of skill development, in the area of healthcare, है ना. बहुत ही एक आपका जो है prominent program that India is running in Africa is Pan Africa E-Network. Pan Africa E-Network, which is about telemedicine, tele-education, है ना. अब इसको जो है, इसका अपग्रेडेशन हो गया, टेक्नोलॉजिकल अपग्रेडेशन हैज बीन डन, एंड नाउ इट इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज ई विद्या भारती, आरोग्य भारती, ई विभा. So we have long-term educational and healthcare related institution building program. And then you might have also read in the current affairs also in the last 1 year or 1.5 years that India India's IIT Madras, it has opened its center at Zanzibar, है ना. Zanzibar में IIT Madras का ऑफ सेंटर खुला है, जहाँ पे we are or IIT Madras is helping the students in Zanzibar to study about data science, about AI. Similarly, Zambia, है ना, जाम्बिया जो कंट्री है वहाँ पे स्मार्ट जाम्बिया का प्रोजेक्ट इंडिया कर रहा है. तो इट्स अ लॉन्ग टर्म इंस्टीट्यूशनल बिल्डिंग. सिमिलरली टोगो जो है, टोगो में जो है इंडिया जो है वहाँ पे डिजिटल आईडी सिस्टम डेवलप कर रहा है. घाना में है यूपीआई सिस्टम डेवलप कर रहा है. ठीक है. सो लॉट ऑफ इंस्टीट्यूशन, lot of your institutional partnership is also there, like IIT Madras and Zanzibar. Similarly आपका जो है जाम्बिया में जो है वहाँ पे स्मार्ट जो है स्मार्ट सिटी वाला कॉन्सेप्ट है उसको डेवलप कर रहे हैं. टोगो में जो है इट इज कोलैबोरेटिंग विद इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ आईटी बैंगलोर के साथ कोलैबोरेशन हो रहा है. तो लॉट ऑफ कोलैबोरेशंस आर हैपनिंग with the governments, different governments in Africa. So India's approach to Africa is basically on mutual respect, co-development and long-term institutional partnership. If you are continuously reading your current affairs, आपको इसका आंसर करने में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगी, क्योंकि बहुत सारा जो आपके recent initiatives हैं उनको यहाँ पे लिखना था. So now again to sum up, India-Africa digital partnership is achieving mutual respect, co-development and long-term institutional partnership. Elaborate, है ना. तो again I am saying this is fact heavy question. You can begin your answer by just talking about कि how our relationship is about mutual respect, trust and all those things, है ना. वो आप कर सकते हो. ग्लोबल साउथ की बात कर सकते हो, कॉमन पास्ट की बात कर सकते हो, and then through various examples how we are doing this mutual respect, co-development, long-term institutional partnership. You can also write about our priority in Africa is Africa-led, Africa-controlled, Africa-dominated development process. So we are taking Africa at par, है ना. It is not about donor and recipient. It is not about buyer and seller kind of a relationship. And when you are concluding your answer in 3-4 lines or in just 2-3 lines, you can talk about कि यहाँ पे we are doing so many things. There are certain challenges which needs to be worked upon. Like challenges, we have frequent political unrest in Africa. Then we also have problem of basic infrastructure, because there are issues of electricity, है ना. 24/7 इलेक्ट्रिसिटी सप्लाई की प्रॉब्लम है आपको, है ना. आपका जो डिजिटल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है वो प्रॉपर नहीं है. देन देयर इज अ इशू ऑफ और चैलेंज ऑफ डिजिटल डिवाइड देयर, डिजिटल लिटरेसी देयर. सो वी ऑल्सो need to work upon so that India can better support African countries. So again I am repeating that this question is directly, the line of the question is directly from the Hindu article which was there on 26th of May 2025. So article वहाँ था, लेकिन इवन नेक्स्ट IAS का जो आपका डेली न्यूज एनालिसिस होता है उसमें भी आप देखोगे वहां पे भी इंडिया अफ्रीका डिजिटल कॉम्पैक्ट नाम से उसी दौरान जो है ड्यूरिंग दैट पीरियड ओनली देयर वाज कंटेंट अवेलेबल. सो दोज हु आर having continuous eyes on the current, they could easily write this answer. Now second is, this is where little bit analysis is required. With the waning of globalization, post-Cold War, world is becoming a site of sovereign nationalism. Elucidate. Answer in 150 words, 10 marks का है ना. Elucidate का क्या मतलब होता है? Elucidate means you have to make it clear, है ना. उसको आप क्लियरली समझाओ. It is saying with the waning of globalization, post Cold War, world is becoming a site of sovereign nationalism. अब your syllabus also has a point where the politics of developed and developing world. So this is the politics that is happening. This is what we are witnessing in the current, and a lot of things are happening in the current. Lot of articles are coming in the current. Lot of actions are taken by different governments in the present times, which make us think that are we moving towards deglobalization, है ना. कई सारे आपके एडिटोरियल्स आर्टिकल्स जो है deglobalization की बात कर रहे हैं. कई सारे आपके एक्शंस हो रहे हैं, जैसे कि प्रोटेक्शनिस्ट पॉलिसीज हो रही हैं वर्ल्ड में, है ना, हर कंट्री जो है वो अपने आप को प्रोटेक्ट करने की बात कर रहा है, कोई मेक अमेरिका ग्रेट अगेन की बात कर रहा है, कोई अमेरिका फर्स्ट की बात कर रहा है, कोई आत्मनिर्भर की बात कर रहा है ना, कहीं पे आप देखोगे टैरिफ की वॉर हो रही है ना, कहीं पे आप देखोगे कि जो वीजाज है ना, वीजा रिस्ट्रिक्शंस रेगुलेशंस जो है वो बहुत स्ट्रिंजेंट हो रहे हैं. सो एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द यूरोप यू विल सी दैट इन द लास्ट फ्यू ईयर्स right wing governments are becoming very popular. So all these indicate that there is waning of globalization, and hence the question has been asked. Now with the waning of globalization post Cold War, world is becoming a site of sovereign nationalism. Sovereign nationalism का मतलब हो गया है जहां पे the countries are डिनाइंग द एक्सटर्नल इन्फ्लुएंस, है ना, आप एक्सटर्नल इन्फ्लुएंस को एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर रहे हो. ठीक है, तो ये क्वेश्चन जो है बेसिकली इज अबाउट कि हाउ प्रेजेंटली फ्रॉम ग्लोबलाइजेशन वी आर मूविंग टूवर्ड्स nationalism, है ना, sovereign nationalism. Now you have to elucidate, you have to dig deeper into it. So what you can do is, when you have to begin this answer, you can talk about what is happening in the world, you can talk about the visa regulations, you can talk about the right wing governments coming, you can talk about protectionist policies, you can talk about countries shunning the global institutions like WTO or UN, and our countries are not bothering about the international norms, rules, regulation, and might is right. Everybody is talking about the welfare of their own country, everybody is talking about their own protectionist measures, and their country first, and rather than all of us together, everyone is saying my country should be first. So that is what we are seeing is, you can give the example of MAGA, Make America Great Again, or America First, or so many things that we have discussed right now. So you may begin by this. Now you have to talk about why it is happening. So what are the reasons, you know, what are the factors that is leading from globalization to sovereign nationalism? So here you can briefly talk about the factors which are talking about this, or the factors because of which it is happening is, you can segregate it as economic factors, political factors, cultural factors. Like what we are witnessing is, especially this trend is happening because of economic reasons, है ना, economic reasons जैसे 2008, in 2008 global financial crisis has happened, then post pandemic also, and during pandemic we have seen that there is choking of supply chains, right? And then the fruits of globalization has not been equally distributed amongst the countries. The countries, many of them which are richer, they are becoming more richer, and the poor countries are not getting that kind of benefit, or they are not getting that kind of advantage of globalization. Rather, they are facing a lot of challenges because of the globalization. So one of the reasons why countries, or economic reasons why countries are shunning from globalization, are some of these major examples. And then you can talk about political factors behind this trend. The political factor is because right now what we are seeing is that there's a lot of polarization in the world. The world is not coming together as a whole, or as a family, or Vasudev Kutumbakam. Rather, the world is highly polarized between global north and global south, and nobody is listening to the other side. Global north is not ready to listen to global south, global south is not ready to listen to global north. So there is no consensus building up. Especially the global north is not trying to understand the challenges or the problems of the global south. So the global south is thinking, why should we go for with the globalization? So everybody is marching on their own ट्रैक्स, ठीक है. सो यहाँ पे जो है पॉलिटिकल फैक्टर्स है, एंड देन राइवलरीज, है ना, राइवलरीज बेसिकली और मेनली बिटवीन यूएसए वर्सेस चाइना, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दिस जियोपॉलिटिकल राइवलरीज व्हाट वी हैव सीइंग इज दैट देयर आर इंस्टेंसेस ऑफ मागा, Make America Great Again. There are instances of friendshoring, है ना, countries are looking for C+1 policy, China+1 policy, है ना. रशिया यूक्रेन का भी जो है उसकी फाइट के चलते व्हाट वी हैव सीन दैट देयर इज डिसरप्शन ऑफ सप्लाई चेन, स्पेशली energy and food security issues have been there. So what we are seeing is because of the global political challenges, everybody is facing the problem. Because in globalization we are as strong as the weakest link. अब आप directly involved हो या नहीं हो, but since you are a part of the globalized world, so you have to face the challenges. Any kind of conflict, any kind of war, any kind of disease anywhere in the world, whether you are the nearby country or whether you are a very distant country, you have to face the challenges. So many of the countries, especially the poorer countries or developing countries, they feel that what good we are getting out of this globalization. So that is why this trend is happening. And then you have the developed countries like USA or many of your European countries, they feel that the best benefit of globalization has gone to developing countries like China or India. So they want to move away from globalization. So everyone have their own agendas. And then there are also cultural reasons. Now what has happened is, because of globalization, it's not just about globalization of economy, it is also about globalization of culture. It is about movement of people. So what we have seen is that many of these countries, they fear that the people or the immigrants, they are destroying their culture, and because of this, what we are observing is that there are hate crimes, there are racial attacks on each other in many of the countries, and people, they do not want or they are unwelcoming the outsiders. Because of globalization, movement of people has also happened, है ना. तो because of all these factors, what we are witnessing is that the countries are moving away from globalization, and rather they are more promoting more sovereign nationalism. They want to protect their economy, they want to protect their culture, they want to protect their language. So that is why this trend is being witnessed. Now the next thing that you could write in your answer is that, is it good? Because you have to dig deep into it. It is elucidate, है ना. आपको इसमें जो है elucidate करना है ना. तो you have to dig deep into it. So is it good trend? So you may like in 2-3 lines you can talk about it, or 2 line में भी आप अच्छे से इसको लिख सकते हो कि is it good. So you can say it is not good, because see, whether you accept it or not, है ना, now we all are connected, है ना. We are in a world where we are connected through supply chains, through movement of people, through various communication, movement of people and all those things, we are connected. So now our problems are also interconnected. चाहे वो क्लाइमेट चेंज हो, चाहे वो आपका जो है साइबर रिलेटेड सिक्योरिटी इश्यूज हो, चाहे वो आपका जो है हेल्थ रिलेटेड इश्यूज हो, पेंडेमिक्स हो, our security issues, चाहे टेररिज्म हो, our problems are now common problems. So if the countries start the trend of sovereign nationalism, it is not good for all of us, because the problems of today need us to come together. The problems of today need us to come together through common institutions. We need UN, we need WTO, we need World Bank. So we have to come together to challenge the present problems that we are facing, है ना, to deal with the present problems that we are facing. So this trend is not good. So what can be done? So in the conclusion, you can talk about how we can promote further this global institutions or global आपका जो globalization. Another thing, if you want, you may also write in your conclusion part that, see, the globalization is not completely waning, because see, the globalization that we have seen immediately after Cold War, it was a unipolar world. Now we are in a multipolar world, and so the realities of the present times are different from what we have seen in 1970s, 80s or 90s. So the globalization also needs to be redefined according to the present circumstances, where the present circumstances is saying that you have to think globally and act locally, है ना. तो आपको जो है मल्टीपोलर वर्ल्ड के लिए ग्लोबलाइजेशन को रीडिफाइन करना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज ग्लोबलाइजेशन इज अ इम्पॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट for the well-being of all the countries. So that is what this question is about. थोड़ा बहुत analysis था इसमें, है ना? Now, question number 19. It is a 15 marker, 250 words. It is about energy security, है ना? Ever since we have seen pandemic, or we have seen Russia Ukraine, or we have seen West Asian crisis, है ना? Energy जो है, it has been in the news. Plus you might be observing that most of the visits that India is doing in the recent times is to African countries, or to Latin American countries, or to Caribbean countries, or to your Pacific Island countries. Most of the agreements are on energy. And India is a rising economy, है ना? हम जो है one of the largest consumers of energy है ना? Third largest consumer of energy है, और हमारा per capita energy consumption जो है, that is still much lower. It is going to be higher. ये बढ़ेगा ही बढ़ेगा. So energy is very much a focal point of our foreign policy. और अभी भी आप देखो energy को लेकर के ही USA is not happy with India buying Russian energy. So energy was too much in the news in the last 3-4 years, and our focus of foreign policy is also on energy deals, energy agreements. So that is why the question is there. Now, energy security constitutes the dominant kingpin of India's foreign policy and is linked with India's overarching influence in Middle Eastern countries. The statement is given that energy security constitutes the dominant kingpin of India's foreign policy and is linked with the India's overarching influence in Middle Eastern countries. How would you integrate energy security with India's foreign policy trajectories in the coming years? So they are asking your suggestion. The question is mainly around कि जो है आपको coming years में इंडिया की जो foreign policy vis-a-vis energy security है ना, उसके लिए they are asking suggestions from you. Now, energy security constitutes the dominant kingpin of India's foreign policy and is linked with India's overarching influence in Middle Eastern countries. अब आप इसको how to begin this answer? You may start with that India is one of the largest consumer of energy, है ना, third largest consumer of energy, and the rate at which our economy is growing. So we need sustainability and security of energy. So definitely energy security is now a focal point of our foreign policy, and at the same time it is the main energy region for India is West Asia. Presently we are getting lot of energy from West Asia, be it your Iraq, be it your Saudi Arabia, be it your UAE, be it your Qatar, LNG लेके आ रहे हैं वहाँ से, ठीक है? So West Asia is a dominant sector or region in our energy component. So West Asia is important, and because of this region, in the last few years, or you can say decades, India has been trying to maintain a delicate balance, or India has been maintaining a dehyphenation policy with all major players in the region. है ना, सारे major players के साथ जो है ना, because it depends on overarching influence in the Middle East, है ना. So we have been following the dehyphenation policy and maintaining good relationship with all major players, और वहाँ के सारे major players जो हैं energy से linked हैं हमारे लिए, they are important. So India has a prime focus in this region, but now what we are seeing is the region is not going to completely fulfill our demand. As our demand is increasing, so we need to diversify, and at the same time this region in the past few years have been witnessing a lot of unrest and a lot of conflicts, war, a lot of unrest is happening in the region. We are seeing कि जो आपके यहाँ के choke points है ना, बाबल मांदेब है, आपका रेड सी वाला रीजन हो गया, या फिर आपका जो है होर्मुज है, ईरान के उधर का जो आपका choke point है, we are always facing threat in this region, है ना, choking of the sea lane of communications here. So definitely our focus is to have a sustainable and constant energy supply to India. So that is why, what would be your, how would you integrate energy security with India's foreign policy trajectories in the coming years? So that is why India has to focus on diversification, and diversification in two aspects. Diversification with respect to destination, as we are also now, or we have started diversifying our destinations, but still the major chunk is coming from West Asia. So diversification with respect to destination. So अब जो है, you have seen that India is also buying from Russia, India is also buying from USA, India is also buying from African countries. So we have to further stretch it. We have to further stretch it to other African countries, then we have to stretch it to Caribbean countries, Latin American countries, है ना, आपका अर्जेंटीना के साथ अभी डील साइन हुई है. So we have to stretch it to that. And then another thing with respect to energy security, diversification with respect to source of energy. We also have to diversify. It should not only be coal or crude or gas. है ना, आपका हाइड्रोजन पाइपलाइंस है, आपका जो है सोलर एनर्जी है, विंड एनर्जी है. सो हमारी जो फॉरेन पॉलिसी है, वी ऑल्सो ग्रीन टेक्नोलॉजीज है, रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सोर्सेज के ऊपर भी वी हैव टू फोकस ऑन इन अवर फॉरेन पॉलिसी, एंड दैट इज व्हाट वी आर डूइंग, स्पेशली विद योर यूरोपियन स्कैंडिनेवियन कंट्रीज. ग्रीन टेक्नोलॉजीज हम वहां से लेके आ रहे हैं एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी के लिए, है ना. उसी तरह आसपास की कंट्रीज, इफ यू लुक अराउंड इंडिया, इंडिया इज ऑल्सो ट्राइंग टू डेवलप रीजनल पावर ग्रिड्स, रिन्यूएबल पावर ग्रिड्स. लाइक if you might have read in the current also, 2-3 months back or maybe 4 months back, we have inaugurated the regional power grid between India, Bangladesh and Nepal, है ना. HEP का जो है हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिक पावर का वहाँ पे कर रहे हैं. उसी तरह श्रीलंका के साथ जो है हम सोलर एनर्जी के लिए पावर ग्रिड डेवलप कर रहे हैं. सो इंडिया हैज टू, है ना. सो इन द कमिंग years our foreign policy, है ना, for energy security our foreign policy should focus on a diversification of the destination, number 2 diversification of the sources of energy, not just renewable but non-renewable sources also. Then third thing, India also should be a active सिक्योरिटी प्रोवाइडर टू सेफगार्ड द सी लेन ऑफ कम्युनिकेशंस, है ना. जो आपके एनर्जी ट्रेडिंग रूट है, मेजरली पर्शियन गल्फ हो गया, इंडियन ओशन रीजन हो गया, है ना. इंडिया शुड कोलैबोरेट विद द like-minded countries in this region so that the region is free for energy trade, है ना. दैट इज व्हाट इंडिया इज डूइंग, है ना. आप जो है, आप देखो रेड सी एरिया में जो है हम पायरेसी के अगेंस्ट काम कर रहे हैं, है ना. तो वी हैव टू ऑल्सो फोकस ऑन दिस ट्रेंड ऑल्सो. सो दैट इज व्हाट इज रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ द क्वेश्चन कि एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी के लिए हमें कमिंग ईयर्स, क्वेश्चन इज सेइंग कि एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर इंडिया एंड प्रेजेंटली इट इज मेनली inclined towards Middle Eastern countries, but in the long run, foreign policy trajectories, what would you suggest for India's sustainable energy supply? So you have to talk about these points in the answer. So this was also easier question, ठीक है. And the last question is about बॉडीज, है ना. जो आपका सिलेबस का लास्ट जो है आपका पॉइंट जो है सिलेबस का 5 पॉइंट्स जो सिलेबस में लास्ट पॉइंट इज इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, इंस्टीट्यूशंस, फोरम्स. सो द क्वेश्चन एवरी ईयर इज कमिंग फ्रॉम वन और द अदर इंटरनेशनल बॉडी और ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विच हैज बीन इन द न्यूज. एंड UN reforms. UN reform is something which is an evergreen topic. Especially India is pursuing very hard for UNSC reforms. So obviously the question was there in this year's question paper also, and if you see your PYQs, before also they have asked questions, what are the challenges India faces in getting membership of United Nations Security Council. So UN reform से related questions पहले भी आए हैं और ये दूसरी बार आपको direct UN reform से related question है. और UN reforms has been in the news especially because of India's efforts towards this. So the question has come, है ना. तो ये मतलब आपकी बॉडीज वाला जो क्वेश्चन हर साल आता है, तो इस बार ये UN है. द रिफॉर्म प्रोसेस इन द यूनाइटेड नेशन रिमेन्स अनरिजॉल्व्ड बिकॉज ऑफ द डेलिकेट इम्बैलेंस ऑफ ईस्ट एंड वेस्ट एंड एंटेंगलमेंट ऑफ द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स वर्सेस रूसो चाइनीज अलायंस. ठीक है, तो दे हैव सेड कि जो आपका यूएन रिफॉर्म्स है ना, यूएन रिफॉर्म्स इट इज गेटिंग इम्पैक्टेड बिकॉज ऑफ द ईस्ट वर्सेस वेस्ट and issues of USA वर्सेस चाइना प्लस रशिया. इन दो एस्पेक्ट्स के ऊपर आपको बात करनी है. ठीक है, एग्जामिन है ना, एग्जामिन मीन्स यू हैव टू केयरफुली लुक एट इट है ना, केयरफुली लुक एट दिस स्टेटमेंट एंड क्रिटिकली इवैल्यूएट. इवैल्यूएट का क्या मतलब होता है? इवैल्यूएट मीन्स यू हैव टू access the, you have to give some kind of argument and idea which should be based on a balanced and informed judgment. ठीक है, तो यूएन रिफॉर्म्स से रिलेटेड जो है दे हैव पुट द टू टेल वर्ड्स एग्जामिन एंड क्रिटिकली इवैल्यूएट. ठीक है, so the reform process in the United Nations remains unresolved. So when you can begin your answer by talking about that UN reforms, it's a long pending issue. Ever since UN has been formed, there has been demand for UN reforms, and especially आपका जो है 70s 80s के around, when many of the countries became independent, when the colonial powers है ना, they have to give independence to the many of your countries which were under their rule. तो lot of your countries got independence. उस टाइम पे भी जो है यूएन रिफॉर्म्स की बात, और स्पेशली आज के टाइम पे जब से आपका जो है ग्लोबल साउथ की कंट्रीज लाइक इंडिया, चाइना है ना, ये सारी कंट्रीज जो है डोमिनेंट हो रही हैं. ऑफ कोर्स चाइना इज वेरी मच देयर इन यूनाइटेड नेशन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल, बट यू हैव ब्राजील, यू हैव साउथ अफ्रीका. सो दीज कंट्रीज आर नाउ asking for their rightful position at United Nations Security Council. So that is why UN reform is a long pending thing. It's not something which is, or this is not an issue which has been brought up very recently. It's a long pending issue. You may begin your answer by talking about that it's a long pending issue. ठीक है. Now, the reform process in the United Nations remains unresolved because of the delicate imbalance. Now, why there is a delicate imbalance? Now, the delicate imbalance, if you look at UNSC, है ना, UNSC, you have 5 members, है ना. अब in 5 members में you have your, as you all know, you have US, you have France, you have UK, then you have China and Russia. Now, US, France, UK, these are your western countries, और China, Russia इनको eastern countries. So 3:2 का balance है. ठीक है, it's a very delicate imbalance है ना, because nobody can dominate here. Neither they being 3, they cannot dominate, nor ये आपको dominate कर सकते हैं. Because everybody is having a veto power. So there is a very delicate imbalance here. And neither can dominate because of veto. And unfortunately, now the countries have started weaponization of veto. They are using veto as a weapon against each other. ठीक है, so आपका जो there is a very delicate imbalance. And why there is imbalance? Because why there is issue between these two groups, western and eastern groups, because of their thought process or their own policy behavior. So if you look at east versus west, अब जो west है, west talks about what? West talks about democracy, west talks about rule based order, west talks about liberal economy, है ना, liberal economics. And on the other side, China and Russia, they do not talk about democracy. है ना, आपने देखा होगा डेमोक्रेसी के नाम पे यूरोप हो गया, यूएस हो गया, दे अटैक कंट्रीज, बट दे डू नॉट टॉक अबाउट डेमोक्रेसी. चाइना में यू डोंट हैव डेमोक्रेसी एंड रशिया में यू हैव डिक्टेटोरियल डेमोक्रेसी. सो दे आर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट डेमोक्रेसीज, रादर दे आर मोर अथॉरिटेरियन एंड दे आर लिबरल, दे आर वेरी अथॉरिटेरियन. ठीक है, they are more authoritarian here, and then they want their pole to be dominant, especially US wants that there should be only one pole, but now they are talking about or China is now emerging as a new pole. So they are talking about multipolarity, and they are talking about multipolar order, they are talking about unipolar order USA and its allies. So there are differences between the Eastern and the Western blocks. Eastern bloc does not want the dominance of the Western bloc, and Western bloc does not want that the Eastern bloc should become prominent, it should become dominant. So that is why there are clashes. Now this institution UN was formed in 1945 and today we are in 2025. So the institution which was formed keeping in mind the realities of those times post Second World War, today the world has completely changed. So we have to bring changes to the organization, otherwise this organization is as good as a dead organization. That is why we say that UN has become paralyzed. Now what kind of reform is required? The reform is expansion of UN. Now which are the countries which are looking for their place in this expansion? It is India, it is Japan, है ना, इंडिया है, जापान है, ब्राज़ील है, आपका अफ्रीकन कंट्रीज है ना, G4 का ग्रुप है, आपका इजुलविनी कंसेंसस है. सो लॉट ऑफ योर countries which are majorly your global south or which are majorly you can say non-Western countries, they are looking for expansion. So they do not want, है ना, Western bloc does not want the expansion. They do not want the expansion here. So that is why East and West का confrontation, है ना, इनका जो है ideologies are different. Western ideologies are completely different from Eastern ideologies, and that is what we can see the rift or the fault line, and it was very much evident in the near few आपका जो है near past में आप देखोगे what we have seen, their decisions or there has been no consensus with respect to the Palestine versus Israel issue, or with respect to your Gaza ka problem, with respect to your Russia versus Ukraine issue, with respect to your Syria related issue. So that is what is East and the West. East and the West, they are having lot of confrontation. They have the fault line which is bringing or which is not letting UN to come to a consensus on solving the issues. UN has been formed with the purpose of bringing stability, bringing peace, forming consensus, but unfortunately nothing is happening. And rather than peace, what we are seeing is lot of polarization in United Nations only, especially United Nations Security Council. So you have to talk about it. Then is it good? Is it good? No, this is not good because of this conflict, because of this polarization, and UN has become paralyzed, and decisions on important issues like climate change, like terrorism, like the issues of Gaza and or the recent Gaza issue, or your Russia-Ukraine crisis, we have not been able to solve it. Rather, the world is moving towards more chaos. So that is why UN reform is not happening, because of the East versus West and USA versus Russia and China bloc. And these things you have to write, and in the conclusion part, you can talk about what needs to be done. You can talk about that what needs to be done. इसके लिए we have to come together. We have to come together. We have to see the Western bloc has to see that this organization is leading nowhere in the present times. It has to be reformed, and if it is not reformed, definitely there can be or there might be another organization. जैसे लीग ऑफ नेशन फेल हो गया तो यूएन बना. अगर आप यूएन को डिफंक्ट कर दोगे, वेस्ट जो है इसमें रिफॉर्म्स नहीं करेगा, so one day what might happen, another or parallel institutions, and that is what we are seeing in the form of, presently it is a smaller versions. We are seeing it in the form of G20, we are seeing it in the form of your BRICS. So these things will further lead to polarization. So we have to come together, develop a consensus and bring the suitable reforms, suitable in the sense which are very much in accordance with the demand of the present geopolitical, social, economic circumstances. ठीक है, तो ये आपका चौथा क्वेश्चन है. So there are 4 questions, quite easy. Especially आपका question number 1, India Africa was lot of data heavy question. Second question was with respect to your globalization and countries moving away from globalization. That is what we are observing. तो जो continuously कंटेम्प्रेरी इश्यूज को देख रहा है, न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ रहा है, वो उसको आराम से लिख सकता है. एंड देन थर्ड क्वेश्चन इज विद रिस्पेक्ट टू एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी. अगेन दिस इज फ्रॉम करंट ओनली, है ना, जो हम पिछले 4-5 सालों से और मे बी यू कैन से इन द लास्ट 10 ईयर्स, जब से इंडियन इकोनॉमी आपकी काफ़ी बूम करने लग गई है ना, हमारी रिक्वायरमेंट इज व्हाट, एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी एंड स्टेबिलिटी. वी आर फोकसिंग ऑन दैट. एंड द फोर्थ क्वेश्चन इज यूएन रिफॉर्म्स, which is a topic which has been constantly in the news. So all the questions are quite doable. Thank you.